This is The Wow Effect, the podcast for women entrepreneurs who are scaling big. I'm Mallory Steele, and every episode expect honest conversations, actionable insights, and stories that make you say, wow. What does it take to clear the path for entrepreneurs, build community, and help others dream bigger? On today's episode of The Wow Effect, Betsy of 1 Million Cups shares how they open doors, remove barriers, and create a ripple effect of impact for small businesses. We talk overcoming roadblocks, building community over competition, keeping your end game in focus, and why women should say their big dreams out loud. Welcome to the Wow Effect podcast. Betsy, I'm so excited that you're having this conversation with me today. I know we've had some really awesome conversations, and I'm so excited to have this one and have it recorded so everybody else can eavesdrop on us. So welcome.
I'm excited for it. I love talking with you, so bring on the recording.
Yeah. So, Betsy, for anyone meeting you for the first time, how did you become the kind of person who champions community and entrepreneurship? That's something that's really stuck out to me, that every interaction that I've had with you, and you show up as a leader, and it seems to be that something that's very close to your heart.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I take that as a big compliment. And geez, I think I was born this way. I've just always kind of been, I wanted to be the door holder or the bus monitor, which that doesn't always, that's not always the best idea at that age, but I just feel like even in the challenges that I've taken on in my life, I feel like I have thoroughly vetted my own knowledge about whatever it is that I'm diving into enough for people to trust me and come along with me. I'm certainly never the expert. That's why I need people in the community of which you speak beside me and around me and behind me and leading me sometimes, because I don't know all the answers, but I am determined to find the answer, especially if it's negatively affecting someone in my community. So I think that's just kind of how I always started. A little bit of a justice vigilante kind of it's important to me that people are heard and feel satisfied with their situation. So if I can help with that, I always like to.
I love those words. You're a vigilante. Can you
We're
share
good.
a little more about your story? Like, tell me a little bit more about your childhood and growing up, and how did you end up where you are today in wearing all these hats that you're wearing? What shaped your path to get you here?
Yeah, so I grew up in the country of Indiana, kind of out playing in the woods and, going after, not hunting animals. We didn't really hunt animals and things like that. We were just kind of nature lovers, and we would go on walks. And I've just always loved that kind of serenity. I'm definitely more of a nocturnal animal than I think I am. I mean, I'll get up and go in the morning, but I prefer the evening and the stars and the moon and, that kind of thing. So I think just those like nighttime chats about life that I did have growing up in Indiana with my dad on those walks was special. Very much shaped who I am, as I get a little teary-eyed talking about that. But it's I guess it's just kind of a natural instinct I've always felt like I needed to follow. And I think by eliminating distractions, like, I mean, I played plenty of Super Mario Brothers, don't get me wrong, but, like the digital environment that we're in now, the phones, the just all the time right here with you. I didn't really grow up with that. I was out, getting dirty, being wild, drinking out of hoses, all those things that, we did in the 80s. But I really do think that had a lot to do with my attitude now, because sometimes I even see things where it's like, well, I feel like that should affect me a little bit more. I should be more emotional about that because this is a big deal and I'm just not. And kind of that sometimes confuses me, but I think that's probably why I went into emergency medicine. That wasn't so much my childhood, but I think that ultimately drove me there, and working on an ambulance was my favorite job ever, because I think that's back to that. I vetted myself well enough to trust me to help you out of what could be the worst day of your life. And that was what it was all about for me. It's just helping someone in their time of need, no matter how small or great that is. And it's not up to me to judge what that need is or how great they feel it is. I just want to help you solve that problem or that need.
You shared so much in there. the it's not up to you to judge. We all have different things we're going through, and I find it's like the first time you experience something different or new, it can be scary. And so when you go back to that, like, it's not a big deal. Is it not a big deal, or was it not a big deal to you, or is everybody making it a bigger deal than what it really should be? Well,
Yes,
probably
absolutely.
mixed.
I believe so. Yes, I find myself often looking around, like look in the mirror, look across the table, look at the situation, and really assess from there. And I think that's a big part of it too. My parents both were constantly reminding me to assess the whole situation, not just myself, but the whole situation. And, your how you take it in is going to be your opinion and your assessment, but then how you react outwardly, that's where you really need to be sure-footed.
Yeah, I really appreciate your perspective, and it can be, you make it sound so simple, and for a lot of people, it's probably something that's very difficult to have that as a forward thinking mindset. So thank you for that. Um, we met through 1 Million Cups. Do you want to share a little bit more about that and how you got involved with that? Why are you so passionate about it?
Oh, I do. I feel lucky to have been involved for actually almost a year now with the organization and the Kauffman Foundation and just what they want to do nationally, let alone what I'm able to do locally, is just exactly part of what I want to do. And that's eliminate barriers for entrepreneurs to be successful. Any barrier, right? If there's something, if I can connect you with someone or explain something to you, this is kind of back to the beginning where I said I'm not the content matter specialist on anything, but my idea is to build my Rolodex up so much so that I have contacts to heal all wounds or fix all problems or service all needs. And I think 1 Million Cups attracts such a diverse group of people that are also like-minded. So you can have, someone who is opening a bonsai store that can connect with a multi-million dollar realtor just on their business plans and how they set up their business. And even though they may not, do anything similar, that's okay. They can still sit down and have that conversation. And I think that's what 1 Million Cups allows, is for all different walks of life to sit down and have conversations about each other or with each other about their businesses. And I got involved because of a fantastic group of people up in Eustis who kind of took me under their wing and let me kind of learn the model. And then we were able to appeal to Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City to approve a second chapter within our Lake County, which is pretty much unheard of just because there was such a demand and it was such a successful program. So yeah, now we have between 50 and 60 people every Wednesday at our location, and we have presentations from everything from health clinics and direct primary care to we have financial advisors that give they are the content matter specialists, and they give our business owners some help on topics they may not even know they need, all the way through to people that just want to hear themselves say a business idea out loud. They may not even have said to anyone yet, hey, I think I'm going to start making this widget. And then you get that kind of community feedback about how that idea may work, may not work, where you could go with that idea, and some ideas for improvement or also some caution. And I think all of that is valuable for an entrepreneur.
So good. And it's a room full of entrepreneurs, not our family and friends who all have different opinions, right?
Yes, yes, indeed. Absolutely.
I'm curious, you've heard so many different presentations from so many different entrepreneurs in that space and probably in other spaces. Are there any patterns you've picked up on of where people get stuck, or where they start from, where they're the pieces that they're sharing that they need some guidance on?
Yes, and you know what that is? It's beautiful and it's painful at the same time, but it's when people are just so passionate and they just want to get their idea out there and they just want to go. They didn't know they needed to do this enter long number tax document here, or set up permit with city for doing your business here, or filing this with any entity in order to make yourself bloom into existence, right? It's just no, I want to serve my community. I've done some market research. I want to go. So I think that is, as I said, it's fantastic and it's frustrating at the same time because it's heartbreaking to say, oh, you've got all this traction and you want to go, you need to do this, this, and this not so fun thing before you can really legitimize what you want to do. So, but again, I think that goes back to the fact that I'm not just going to tell you that, I'm going to also offer you resources to help you get over that hump. So while I might have to break that difficult news that, hey, you've got a few holes in things here. However, here's the good news. I've got this person, and this service that can help you get through this, and it's all going to be okay.
Without sharing anything confidential, are there any stories that come to mind of an entrepreneur whose business or themselves have transformed from resources or the feedback or the supports?
Oh, absolutely. It's a family, and the husband was working a corporate job. And I say family, I think they have six, maybe seven children, and they just go all over the place, and they just felt so separated, and they really wanted to try to work together. And so they opened a business and it started taking off, and they had some grown children who then started to become involved, and then it got to the point where, okay, it's looking like we're going to be able to sustain this. And then the husband, was able to stop his corporate job, which was the whole thing that they started the family business to achieve. And it took probably 2.5 to 3 years, which is not very long, but multiple presentations, multiple support, and multiple ideas about what to do, and probably more importantly, what not to do, came from 1 Million Cups. And that family was able to announce about 6 months ago that they are now solely providing for that family of nine
Wow.
on this new business's salary, and the husband was able to leave that rigorous corporate job that he did not want to be in. So it was very emotional and wonderful when she was able to come back up and explain that. Of course, all the kids were there, and it was wonderful. So that is full circle success. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they scratched and clawed, and they had hurdles and they had obstacles, but they really did take the advice graciously. And I think there are things that their eyes were open to that they never would have even known about without these other business owners and supporters letting them know about these things.
That's incredible. I'm thinking about, when you're saying, you got to do this and it's going to take 2 years to get there. It feels like forever when you're looking at 2 years, but when you look back on 2 years, it feels like nothing. Now you're like, oh, it only took 2 years, but when you're looking forward, it's like, oh man, you're going to like grind for 2 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's actually a good point. What we usually ask in 1 Million Cups of our presenters that are sharing their business or their ideas is that they have been in business for 1 to 5 years, or they're looking to do a big pivot or rebrand. Because that's kind of, and 5 years, yeah, to your point exactly, that sounds like a long time until you're on the other side of that 5 years and you go, oh, wow, I'm here already. So looking at both ends of that kind of perspective and being able to offer that as, I've been here, it's not fun, but once you get through it, it's all worth it. It's part of it. And, again, scratching and clawing and grinding is part of that entrepreneurial mindset. And like you, I think you can tell when you sit down with someone, do you have that? Do you have that? Do you almost have that? Can we pull it the rest of the way out of you? And you can tell when people are just ready. So it's a joy to see people be that happy and excited and that motivated, even to get through the not fun stuff.
I love that. Betsy, you bring such a unique lens from your economic development background. I'm not sure how to shape this question, but I'm thinking about the gaps. Are there any gaps that you see between the communities and entrepreneurship or collaboration? Like, where do you see opportunity? Because I know you see opportunity and potential everywhere. So what are some ideas around there that we think maybe entrepreneurs or the communities could do a better job or in collaborating? Or any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think supporting those small businesses once they get up and running, and that's even through word of mouth, through frequenting their locations. all the way to the other end of letting business owners know that there are resources or funding available for them if they're struggling. You know, the Small Business Association, the SBDC, things like that. It's very frustrating when a small business or an entrepreneur who, by the way, support our ecosystem in throughout the nation, small businesses support your ecosystem and your economy by a large margin over other, you know, corporations and things like that are different, but your small businesses, your hometown people, they are 70% of your workforce. So that is significant in making sure that those people are supported everywhere, from funding sources to infrastructure to just being there and present at their events and their milestones is all part of community support and collaboration. I even go so far as to, one of my favorite words is co-opetition. I don't know if that's
I
an
like that.
actual word. I don't know if Google has picked it up yet, but
You
it's
could probably make it
definitely,
yours and run with it.
I think
Yeah.
there's it really does work though. I mean, especially here in Central Florida, we have a lot of lawn care companies. We have a lot of roofing companies. We have a lot of, you know, outdoor services and things. Not everybody does exactly the same thing. So it's okay for two or three of those people to be in a room together and share some of those ideas. And, you know, you might find some overlap or some niche areas where you might be able to divide and conquer. So I think support from all angles and just kind of, well, I was going to say making time. I know that's hard for a lot of people, but making time to have those conversations with your community, especially those people, again, back to the realtor and the bonsai store, that you may not even expect to get something from. If you can go to those collaboration meetings or those networking events or those, you know, pitch and brews, whatever it is that pulls you out, where you meet people and you gather a different perspective, I think when you bring that back to your business, it just brings this kind of wholesomeness to it, and this, like, you know, you can call it market research, but you're out discovering things that might even refresh your own perspective. So I think support for businesses and then that collaboration, co-opetition kind of mindset of the business owners is important to support them and keep them moving forward and profitable, of course.
Yeah, so good. I love that word, co-opetition. And you also said that pulls you out. And I think the more conversations we can have with other people, whether it's at networking events or any of the ones that you just mentioned, the more we learn about ourselves and who we are and who we want to be around, right? Like what gets pulled out of us based on the conversation. And it provides more clarity whether we like it or we don't like it, whether it was the right thing to say or the wrong thing to say. We know how to maybe tweak our verbiage or messaging next time and be in the right rooms and which rooms and who are you talking to and paying attention to the people who are actually in the room. So I think you do a really great job with that.
Thank you so much. I completely agree. I think that's an important piece, and that's a big compliment, because it's kind of like being mentally nimble, right? You just kind of have to take as much in as you can, and then maybe even process it later. But I think it's important to do that, because that ultimately allows people to feel heard.
Yeah. Um, so you mentioned the making time, and that can be hard to do. How have you managed that in your own life? You are also an entrepreneur. You bring that economic development lens to your entrepreneurship, and you're wearing many hats, and you have a lot going on. So how do you manage your time, and what habits have you incorporated to manage that?
Yes, I think I used to just say yes to everything, as I just started off that sentence with a big yes. And I think I've really had to teach myself to say no. And it doesn't have to be for any negative reason. It can be just as much serving you as it can be serving me, because if I don't have the capacity to do what you need me to do to the best of my ability, I don't feel like either one of us won there. So I think keeping a balance is important. And we actually had a great conversation about boundaries. And I think that it doesn't have to be like, sometimes, especially we as females think, oh, boundaries, you know, against men at a bar or, something like that. No, boundaries can go across your entire life. I have a 14-year-old son who, I could do absolutely everything for him if I did. He would let me do that. But, there's that expectation. There's just that, sometimes I have to say no, even to him, but it's checking in with yourself. I think it goes back to that, looking in, assessing, am I giving my best right now? If I'm not, why not? Am I too diluted? Okay, that's a problem. So just practicing the ability to recognize that. And also, if I am too busy, it hinders my ability to be accomplishing the big things that I want done. Like you mentioned, economic development, right? Job growth is huge here. We have a huge workforce that is talented and capable, and they just can't quite get plugged into the right spots. And then, we've got economic changes going on, and we've got a lot of growth here in our area. So it almost dilutes access to get to your solution. So there's just this kind of chaos around everything all the time. So honing that ability to just stop, slow down, again, assess everything, and then maybe either redirect your plan, start over if you have to. It's another one of those things I like. It's called turning the prism.
Okay, tell me.
Like if you look through the prism, right, it's going to be beautiful and you're going to see one thing, but you're going to see lots of perspectives. Well, you turn that prism even just a little bit, it's still going to be beautiful. It's going to be different. You might see other things that you didn't see before from a completely different perspective. So I think while it can feel chaotic, you don't have to accept every perspective. You should just maybe consider them and move past or accept to help you kind of reroute or change. So when I feel like life is busy, which that's a good thing, I'm happy there. But when I feel like life is out of control, then that's where I have to stop. So I think differentiating between those two is important, because when I feel out of control, I feel ineffective, and that's not helping anyone.
Yeah. So good. You were I'd say you were a very forward thinker. Like you think much further in the future than most entrepreneurs, especially when they're just starting out. They're thinking about tomorrow and how do I make my paycheck and how do I make payroll and how do I make it to the next milestone, where you're thinking like years out typically, right? Probably both. But how do you for anyone who's struggling to think further in advance, further down the years, do you have any guidance for them? And part of that is, what does the world around us look like? Like what attracts businesses to come work in this area versus a different area? What are your thoughts?
That's part of one of my biggest challenges, is to market this area so that we do grab those, entrepreneurs and those real thriving, I guess scratching and clawing. I always associate that with entrepreneurs, because at some point in your entrepreneurial journey, that is going to have to happen. So I feel like continuing to keep your resources as handy as possible is part of it. But I also feel like home is where you make it, I think. And that's a mindset. You can live anywhere, but where you put down your roots, where you live and you work and you serve your community, you get to make that decision. So I think that still goes back to that constantly assessing, am I happy? Is this what I want? Is this what I'm looking for? Am I doing my best right now to serve what it is that my goal is? And I think, to your question about looking far out, I always ask people, what's your end game? And it's not, oh, I just want to get up in the morning. That's part of it. But what do you really want? What is happiness? What is accomplished? What is you checking that big box in life? What is that? What does that look like? So I think if you are placing yourself in a location, in a situation where that is happening for you, because home is where you've made it, you're on the path. And honestly, 5, 6, 8, 10 years will be gone before you know it, because time flies when you're having fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Absolutely.
think just keeping an eye on that end game. Again, if you get too wrapped up in the here and now, looking out, why am I doing this? What am I trying to accomplish? Why am I doing payroll? I hate payroll. Oh, it's expenses day. I don't even like doing this. QuickBooks is my nemesis. Well, okay, but all the other days of the week you're making your scented candles, and you're picking out new botanicals to go in them, and you're out meeting other people. And so you have to kind of keep it in perspective that you're not working at somebody else's candle shop. This is your candle shop. It's got to get done. I know it's not fun, but look how lucky you are all the other days of the week. And then I think once you kind of get over that hump, and then you even get to the point where you get to start bringing others in, you really see that nurturing that you did pay off.
So, Betsy, what's your end game? What's your vision? What are you working towards?
Connecting people and seeing them happy. Honestly, I think that's just, I want to, if it's anybody from a county commissioner who's got a mission for, for this area, and it's a legacy play, I want to help that. I don't really like to get involved in the politics of it, but it's kind of a conundrum, because a lot of time regular citizens get involved with politics because they want to get things done. So I think it's just helping people feel accomplished. And when I can help someone else realize their goals, that makes me happy.
I love that. I think we're aligned in that. It is very fulfilling, right?
Yes.
I was on your LinkedIn and I wrote something down that you had on there. I know we don't do scripted,
Okay.
but I won't
That's okay.
remember to say this, and I love the way you worded this. So I'm going to read it and get your thoughts on it. Co-create a future that is healthy, connected, and economically vibrant.
Yes. 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 Co-create. Absolutely. Because I can't do it on my own. Somewhere in my background, I have a degree in health education.
Okay.
So I taught middle school health education for the last 6 months of my college career, which was very, very interesting. But I think health is important. And I'm so glad that there is an increasing awareness around mental health being included in the health umbrella. I don't think it ever should have been separate. Again, teaching middle school, yes, you're teaching them the 206 bones of the body, but you're also teaching them social emotional learning and reaction to tense situations and restorative justice, right? So those are all important things, no matter if it's middle school or adulthood. So I think that piece is health of all kinds is huge to me. And again, that can be open to interpretation. So I don't judge on what your idea of a healthy lifestyle is, as far as mental goes. Nutrition, we all know about those kinds of things. That's a different avenue, but it's overall health of the community, of the people in the community, the situation, the economic situation of the community. That all speaks to health. And I love to see people thrive. I don't want to see people just survive. I want to see people thrive. And if you lay the groundwork and they choose to accept, what's there for them, and that works out, again, that just feels like a really good thing to be a part of, to be a co-creator in.
Amazing. I wanted to share that line because I think you embody it. It was the perfect line from your profile there. So I'm glad it's on there.
Thank you.
Betsy, have there been any influences in your life that have helped guide you? Betsy, have there been any influences in your life along your path that have led you to where you are, that have had an impact for you?
Yes, outside of family, I would say my best friend, who I've known since we were 13, she has had a roller coaster of a life, and she owns it anytime something comes at her, right? She She just does. She's got a positive perspective. She's very real. She's matter of fact, and she's also kind of this she's an artist. She does PR for major huge firms out of Atlanta, but she also is an artist. And you don't often have people that, can leave the corporate boardroom and put on overalls and go paint guitars and keyboards and things like that. So, but it's something that I saw her want to do all of our lives. And it was just this nagging thing that, oh, I'm too busy, or, of course, then marriage and family and kids and house and lifestyle and all those things came in, and she dabbled here and there, but finally she dove in. She was like, I'm done. I'm just going to do this. I want to do this for myself. And so she did. And now just her perspective on things has changed. I think she's kind of in that same, should I be more emotional about this? And it's like, no, this is exactly, I'm okay here. I'm comfortable with where I am, who I am, how I've done it, how I got here now. And it's funny, I heard something on TV the other day, and it was a younger kid, a 20 something, talking to probably a 50 something. And the one kid said something about, well, don't you have FOMO? And she said, no, by the time you get to my life, you have JOMO. And he said, what's that? And she said, that's joy of missing out. And I thought that was so clever. I'm like, yes, that's true. It's, but you set that stage for yourself. And there's a point in your life where I think you kind of reach that threshold, and you can stay there for a little bit and decide, but it's okay to have both FOMO and JOMO. But if you are kind of, in control of your own world, especially the chaos, right? You have a handle on the chaos, you can choose which one, and you don't feel like you're missing out on anything.
I totally get that. I have a girlfriend that we talk about that as well, the JOMO. So I'm happy you went there. It's probably hard for women to fathom that when you're feeling FOMO. But it's almost like after a breaking point, and when you say your first no, and then you say another no and another no, and you're like, this is actually really fun.
Yes, absolutely. Because whose fear is it? Whose fear is it? Your fear? Are you afraid that they're missing you? Are you missing them? What is it the fear of? So yeah, I totally agree.
Mm-hmm. If you were to go back to your younger self, what advice or guidance would you give to your younger self?
Oh, I would say figure out that don't be too emotional. Don't like there are things that I can think about in my kind of younger age that I would maybe overreact to. And high school, college, as you're learning, and as in my case, life was being handed to me, I wasn't so in control of it at that point. It was graduate college or graduate high school, go to college, get your degree, declare your major at 18 years old. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. So I think I would go back and tell myself to try to take some of the emotion out of it, and, look at what's my end game. What's my end game? But here I am in economic development with a health education degree. So I don't know if I ever could have answered myself at that point, what's my end game? But definitely just to not have that visceral emotional reaction. And not because that's not healthy or part of growing up, but because for me, I have to then sit with those pieces, or I have to remember how I reacted, or wish I would have reacted differently, or said something funny or witty there. And those are the things that really make me uncomfortable. Again, it's not, I don't dwell on other people's missed comments. I dwell on mine. So I think that's what I would definitely tell my younger self, is to just stay cool, think about it a little bit, maybe turn that prism a couple times before you emotionally react.
Because it's not a big deal, right? All the things we used to make a big deal about when we look back are not that big of a deal. Yeah.
Yes,
So Betsy, Ripple Community Engagement, that's the name of your company, right?
it is.
And who do you serve through that? What impact are you looking to make through Ripple Community Engagement?
Yeah, so job creation, and solidifying Lake County, our area here in Central Florida, as a great place to live and work. We've got over 1,000 lakes right here in our county, and we're close to theme parks, we're close to beaches, we're close to the Space Coast. We've got a lot to offer here, and we're also we've got rural, we've got urban, we've got just, again, so much diversity in this little area right here in Central Florida. And I think that just needs to be celebrated. So I just want to continue making connections and removing barriers for people that also want to celebrate our area. And selfishly, of course, the opportunity, the weather, the lakes, the outdoor opportunities here, I think in some ways people don't even know that they're happier and healthier if they're out experiencing those things. So I think just illuminating opportunities for people to be happy, be healthy, have fun, be outside and collaborate. That's, if I can continue doing that through my company, and that's what Ripple comes from, is that ripple effect, right? That ripple effect of positivity. And there's also a song called Ripple by the Grateful Dead that is a very, very impactful song. And that's really the definition of what it's all about.
So good.
Mhm.
Sorry, I've got a bit of a storm here, so I think my mic, I keep freezing from it. But so we have women in our community who are, some are just starting out, some are just building towards their first six figures. For those women who, they're doing this for the first time, do you have any guidance for them, or can share a story of like maybe some roadblocks that you've had to overcome along the way for them to, maybe you can save somebody else from that kind of a roadblock, or just some guidance in general for them?
Yes, I think it's say it out loud, right? Say whatever it is, say it out loud. I was actually talking to another woman. She's involved with 1 Million Cups as well, but she also helps, starting businesses, and she's a business coach of sorts. And she was talking to someone who said, what do you want to make? And she said, or what do you think you're worth? What do you think your salary is worth? Where do you think your salary should be? And she said, I don't know, 150,000. And she said, what? She said, I don't know, 200. Like, she said, no, what are you worth? What do you want? How much do you want to make? What do you want your number to be? And she goes, $1 million. And she just blurted out $1 million. And she said, say it again, yell it out. She made her just kind of get through this whole thing where don't hide behind your desire. Don't squash your own big dreams because you think it sounds silly to say it out loud to somebody else. So then practice at home, do it in the mirror. Say, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to hit six figures. You can put goals and timelines on it if you want to, if that's how you operate, but just starting with the acceptance of yourself and knowing you can do it. And listen, women have been trying to take over the workforce for what, 75 years now, since we were allowed in, and we're getting there. It's just we're not coming out going, hey, look, we're taking over. Grateful Dead also has a song that's called Man Smart, Woman Smarter. Also very impactful song. But I think there's just, and he says, it ain't me, it's the people, they say. Women are smarter in every way. We don't say that out loud. We just sit over here and do it, right? So I think not letting that old school mindset of, females are lesser, oppressive, yada, yada, all that stuff that we know about creep in any way, shape, or form, because I think that will keep you from standing in front of the mirror and telling yourself that you're going to be a millionaire, or you're going to be a world traveler, or you're going to own whatever it is, a beach house, whatever it is that you want to strive for. Never apologize for that. Never be embarrassed, and just go for it.
That is such a great note to end on. Say it out loud. I love that. Betsy, thank you so much for joining me on the Wow Effect. I just love our conversations. Appreciate it.
So happy to be here. I think the world of you, Mal, and I am so excited to be part of your podcast.
Thank you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to follow the show so you don't miss an episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you're going to love what we have coming up. If you found value in what you heard, share it with a friend who might need it too. Until next time, keep building your dream life and your dream business.